and welcome to another episode of Technobabble with me, Carl Heath, your host. Today I want to talk about something that's new in Google Drive. It's called Google Drive Priority. I even wrote a blog post about this that's on LinkedIn at the moment with its catchy headline, 5 simple ways that Google Drive Priority can save you 53 minutes so you can spend more time with the people you love. Now, you might say that's the copywriter in me that's put that there, but ultimately, isn't that the reason why any of us do anything? We want to spend more time doing the things that we want in life and less time doing the things we don't like. That's kind of how I see it. Particularly, that's how Kimberly IT see it in terms of what we do with helping customers. So, what does that mean? Well, what I'm going to take you through today is Google Drive Priority, which is a new page that's been added to Google Drive that is driven by intelligent machine learning that works out what it is that you want to do next. It works out what you've worked on recently. It works out who you're working with and suggests documents with you. One of the things that most people don't get or don't notice is how long it actually takes you to find something. And this is finding a file on your computer. It can take ages to find something if you don't know where it is, and often computer files aren't very well organized. People don't name folders very well. The search tools that you get aren't great, and even if you do have a great search tool like cloud search in Google, you've still got to go into the search, type the file name in or a bit about the file and find it. All of this eats up your time, and when you add it together over a long period of a day, that's a lot. What you want to do is save a bit of time. So what I'm going to talk about today is one of the ways that Priority Page in Google Drive can save you about 53 minutes a day. And that's not bad. It's 53 minutes you can go and do something more interesting with. That's what my idea is. So let's get cracking on this podcast with how we can save some time. Okay, first one. One of the most common things you want to work on is what you were working on last. Tends to be the way. You're working on something, then you want to continue working on it until you're finished with it. So you want to be able to do this when you move between your desktop, your laptop, your mobile, whatever your device is. You don't want to have to keep looking for wherever that file is, and it's dead easy to forget where it is. What happens now is when you open Chrome on your browser and you go into your Google Drive, you get the option to see the priority page. If you click on the priority page, I was a bit of a lispy there, wasn't I? If you click on the priority page, it will show you the files that you most recently used. And it does that on the mobile device and it does that on your desktop device or laptop, whichever one it is, the 2 versions. It will show you what you last looked at. So there's time saving already, because you don't always keep files in the same place. You might have one file in one team drive and one file in another team drive, and you might have a file in your own drive. Well, Priority looks through all of those and then presents you with the files that you most worked on recently. And the chances are those are the ones you want next. Plenty of statistics have been done on this type of thing, and although we've got access to thousands and thousands of files, generally as a rule we work on about 20 files a week at any one time. So there isn't a fat lot that you need to actually work on most of the time, and this is going to find those files for you straight away, no wasted time. I know that when I open Drive Priority, the last things I worked on are right in front of me. I can click on them and get cracking. That's going to save me time. We do it in Kimberly with the podcast notes for our podcast show. That's something that we're always working on every week. So it's pretty much in priority all the time. And I don't have to go look for it, because we do have a lot of show notes because we've got multiple podcasts. And we do put them in a filing structure so that historically we can keep everything to do with one podcast in one place. This means the show notes are easily accessible for me and I don't even have to know to find them. Priority does it for me. It knows that I work on that document and then presents it in front of me. So that's the first one, and I figure that's probably saving me 5 minutes every time I'm looking for a document. So there's my 5 minutes that I've saved today. Now the next thing that Priority will do is it'll have a look at the files that you and your colleagues are working on. So it looks at files that you've got shared with other people in team drives, and it suggests that you might want to work on that because your colleague's working on it. And the way that that works, again, like the show notes for the podcast, if James works on that, it suggests to me that James is working on the show notes, you might want to work on the show notes. But it'll be the same no matter how big your organisation is, whether you're 2 people like James and I are, or whether there's 100 of you. If you and a colleague are working on a slide deck for a project, and you're going to do a presentation in Google Slides, it's going to suggest to you, it's going to say, Steve's working on that project, Carl, do you want to have a look at it? Now, you don't have to go and ask for that file, and you don't have to ask Steve where it is either. It's going to automatically suggest, Steve's working on this file, you work with Steve a lot, why don't you have a look at this file? And that's pretty cool when you think about it. Google has worked out that you and Steve work together on projects a lot, and therefore you're collaborating together. So if Steve's working on a file quite a bit at the moment, it thinks that you might want to work on it too, and it suggests it to you. And that's going to save you having to go and find the file yourself by searching for it, or have a conversation with Steve about where it is. And it's, again, the most important thing about saving time when you're working in IT is generally it's not about saving hours. You won't save hours and hours with any kind of change in IT. It's not that dramatic. It's incremental. It's smaller. It's about minutes and seconds. And by having these suggestions of these files, you're going to shave another couple of minutes off. I put it down to about 3 minutes for that. Shave about 3 minutes off with doing that. Number 3, and this one's quite cool. Priority will work out what time you do certain types of work in the day. Now, I've had this come up in Priority where it suggested I usually open this sheet around 11 a.m. each day. So Google's machine learning has worked out that I often open a file at a certain type of day. And that might be because at a certain time of day, I do a certain task, such as I might check something, I may check a log or audit something, or I may have a regular meeting around that time and I have a document that's associated with it. So Priority's learned when I'm going to do something and what time of day that I do it. And then what it's done is suggested at that time of day that I open it. And that's pretty clever stuff if you think about how the Priority machine learning is working for you. It's like you've got your own sort of mini assistant going on in the background for you and being like a mini PA. And once again, it's all about getting nudged on things that you might not be thinking about yourself. And you've got the computer in the background and the computer's becoming your assistant and nudging you to what you need to do so that you can spend the time on the valuable part, which is putting your time and effort into what you do as a person, your knowledge, your skills, what you're best at, and you're not wasting your time on mundane tasks such as looking for files. So that's my number 3 on time saving. That's the number 3, is when it prioritizes and puts it in front of you at a certain time of day. Number 4, what's the number 4th way that you can save time with Google Priority Drive? Well, this is about a feature that Google have added called workspaces. And what that means is when you work on a little project with somebody or you're working on a certain task, there's often about 3 or 4 files that you might need to use, maybe more, that relate to that project. It might be the acquisition of a new client, you're working on prospecting, you've taken on a new client, you're onboarding them. It may be a small project that you're doing, it may be a customer service issue that you have. Any of those things, you have a little small project, you have a workspace, and in a workspace you might need to have a sheet, a document, a couple of PDFs and a video, things like that. Now, there's a good chance that those files will be in different locations on your computer. They'll be in different team drives. You might have the documents in one team drive, the sheet in another team drive, and perhaps you've got the PDF and the video in your own My Drive. So they're in different places. And that might be the same for your colleagues as well. So what you want to do is have an easy way to find all of the files every time you want to work on that little mini project. And that's what Workspaces does brilliantly. Workspaces are halfway down the Priority Drive page. And what you do is you click on it, create a workspace, you name it after a project. So you might name it for Sales Pipeline. So that's about the people you're trying to attract to your business. So you call it Sales Pipeline, and straight away what will happen is machine learning will take over and it will suggest to you files that are based around the name Sales Pipeline. And I've done this in Kimberly IT, and we have a sheet that's called KIT Sales Pipeline. And immediately the first document that's suggested on Sales Pipeline was KIT Sales Pipeline. So the machine learning has understood I've got a document that references the name of what I've got, and I can click on that document and add it. I can also then add some of the information that I might want to use for the marketing in my sales pipeline. So I might add a couple of blog posts that I'm working on that are related to that I want to send to somebody. It might not another aspect. It might have a brochure, for example. If I've got a PDF brochure, it adds that to it. I can add those files individually so that they're easy to find in one workplace. And that means now that when I want to work on my sales pipeline, I can go straight into that workspace and see what I need to work on the sales pipeline. And I can create another workspace for perhaps a sales pipeline directly for one prospect, which is really niched in on that one prospect. And it means I don't have to keep going into Drive and into Team Drives to find these files. And that's again going to save me minutes here and there. It's going to save me seconds here and there, but they're all going to add up. Now you might say, well, you could use starring for that in Google Drive. You could star those files, Carl, and then go into your starred list. And that is true. I could do that. I could go into the starred list and do that. The problem with that is if you star a lot of files, you're just going to end up with a massive list of starred files, and that isn't much help either because there's no context to them. You just got a list of files, and that doesn't actually make it any easier for you to find what you want than it did before. This is why Workspace is better. Workspace enables you to create these multiple little bunches of files that work on projects, and you can hide them when you don't want to use them. So if you created 6 workspaces for regular things that you do, you can hide 5 of them so the only one that you see when you open the Priority Drive is the one you want to work on next. And then you can likewise put back the one that you want to work on. So you don't get distracted with things in front of you that you don't need. Everything that you need is in front of you to get on with the work that you need to do until you've finished it. And there's a lot of evidence that shows that we work most efficiently when we work through one task from start to end, stop and then start something new without distraction. Distractions can take like 20 to 30 minutes for you to get your head back on the case to where you need to be. It's that bad when you get distracted. So this is a really great thing that you're getting with the Priority Drive page. You're getting these little workspaces that you can bunch your files together and easily find what you want. And here's something else that's super cool with those. When you go into your workspace and you say you've added 4 or 5 files to it already, if you open the workspace, Google's automatically still using machine learning to have a look through the rest of the files that you've been working on or in your team drives that you've got access to, and suggesting new files that are appropriate for that workspace. So it may be that James will create another file at Kimberly IT that's relevant to that sales pipeline, and when I go into sales pipeline workspace, it says, do you want to suggest this file? It's a new one. I might not even know about that file because James might have shared it with me, but he's not told me he shared it with me, or I didn't see the notification for it, or he didn't send me the notification. So again, it is suggesting things that I don't know, and that's where you get the leverage. That's where you get the advantage. It's about knowing things that you don't know. And in fact, that is my number 5. That's my number 5 thing that you get from Priority Drive. If you've got a colleague that's worked on a file and they've shared it with you and you don't know about it because they forgot to notify you about it in Drive, you might never find it. You're not necessarily going to have a look in the recently shared with me section, so you don't necessarily know about it. But with Workspace giving you those suggestions automatically, that's Google working on your behalf. That's the machine learning looking at the context of what your colleagues are doing and suggesting files to you that you didn't even know existed. It's giving you a head start. That is an assistant. It's like an assistant going to the other team, sitting down, having a chat with them and saying, what is it that you're working on, James, that I can tell Kyle about? And then coming back. That's what you used to have to do in the old days. Someone had to have a meeting and they would tell you what it was that they're working on, and then come back and tell you what it is you need to look at, which files you need to read. Now the machine learning is doing that for you. And that literally could save you hours, not just minutes. That could save you tons and tons of time. Imagine if you were going to produce a sheet yourself that was researching some stats and some numbers and analysing something to do with a project, and then you realised after you did all that work that James had already done the same document yesterday and you didn't know about it. And you didn't know because he wasn't necessarily going to know that you wanted to do it. So he didn't tell you, like, he's not going to say, Carl, I'm doing all this work in case you think about doing it tomorrow. That doesn't happen in life. But what this will enable you to do is Google's going to look at the fact that James created that document and then suggest it to you, which means you're going to know about it. And you might, what if you knew about it before you were about to start work on it, and now you don't have to create that document? And what if that document took an hour to create? You've now saved an hour because James has already done the work for you. You're not duplicating work. And I know this goes on tons and tons in businesses where people duplicate the same work and they go, oh, but I've already done that. Didn't you know? Happens all the time. What a way to save that kind of time. What a great way to save time when Google's looking at things your colleagues are doing and suggesting it to you so that you don't have to do them. That is an absolute advantage. And that one, I gave that like 30 minutes of time that you would save. It's probably more than that because it could take an hour or two to create the document. So it gives you massive leverage to have that. So these are the 5 features. These are the 5 things that Google Drive Priority is doing to really help you spend less time working and more time doing the things that you want to do, help you save time. Let's go through a recap on those again. Number 1, it's going to show you the most common files that you were working on last. They're the most likely files that you're going to want to work on, and it's going to show you those every time you open the Priority Drive page. So that is extremely helpful. No time wasted finding files. They pop up in front of you and you continue to work on them. Number 2, it'll suggest files that your colleagues are working on that you may not know about and that you can work on together. So it's already looking at what people you know are working on and suggesting those to you. Number 3, it will suggest files to you that you open at a certain time of day, i.e. you've got like a mini assistant working for you, nudging you about habits that you have at a certain time of day. You normally do this around 11 o'clock. Don't forget to do this at 11 o'clock. That's a pretty cool thing. It will help you keep files in workspaces so you don't have to go looking for multiple files that are based out of Drive or Team Drives. You don't have to go find them all in different times. You don't have to use the starred list. Your starred list doesn't become this great big swampy thing full of thousands of files. Now you can create little mini workspaces, name them about the project you're working on and include files in them. So you've got these little spaces that you can go into, bunch together your files, work on them until you're finished, and then get rid of them. So it enables you to create these little mini spaces. And the stats show that on average we work on about 20 files a week. So you can create these little mini spaces to work on mini projects, because that's how we work. We have a customer support issue, we have a sales drive, we have a project to go on, we have a technical issue, we have a finance matter. We work on little things at a time. We solve those little problems, then we do the next one. And Workspaces is absolutely brilliant for that. And finally, number 5, you get notified about files that people have shared with you that they may not have notified you about. They may have forgotten to tell you about it by checking the notify box. You didn't know that they'd done it. This is going to enable you to know what other people who are working with you are working on, and it means that you won't duplicate their work, and that could save you hours and hours by not duplicating each other's work. That's an absolute killer feature. Number 5, not duplicating work because you know what other people are working on. So that's a very quick summary of Google Drive Priority. Priority is on release at the moment now. It's been on rapid release and it's on general release. So you'll see it start to show up in your Google Drive when you open it in Chrome, and you open it on your mobile phone. You'll see it start to arrive. Drive Priority. Priority is using machine learning and artificial intelligence to suggest to you the key files that you need to work on a daily basis to make you more efficient. It's looking for the things that you need, the things you worked on last, the people you work with. So it suggests to you what you need to do next, so you don't have to waste time looking for it. And why is that important? Because ultimately, no matter what we do, we didn't come on this planet. We're not born, we don't live for work. Even if we're entrepreneurs and we love what we do, the most important thing that any of us want to do in our lives is do the things that we want. You get one shot at life, and so you don't want to waste it working. And I mean that by waste. Why waste time looking for things that you don't need to look for when you could save that time? And that's what Kimberly IT is about. That's what Cloud IT is about. That's what we're all about, saving time so you can go and spend time doing the fun things you like with the people you love. And I know what I do with my spare time. My spare time, and it's even the wrong word, it's not even spare time. My most valuable time is spent with my 2 daughters, Dixie D and Shiloh Sky. They're my little girls. They're 4 and 2, and they're the most important thing to the world in me. They're the reason why I do everything now. And any time that I can save in the business, not wasted, is going back to them. I've got to run the business. I'm the provider for them. I'm their father. I've got to earn the money. We've all got to do that stuff. I've got a mortgage to pay like everybody else. But you know what? If I'm going to do a day of 6 hours of work, I don't want to do 4 hours of quality work and 2 hours of mundane looking for files and wasting my time. Wouldn't it be better if I could simply do 4 hours of great work, and then I could have the 2 hours back at the end of the day that I was wasting before with an old IT system that was hard to find stuff and was slow and wasn't intelligent, and I then created a file that someone else had already created and I wasted that time? Well, what if I had a system that did stop that from happening so I could have those 2 hours back? Then I can pick my girls up from nursery and go do something fun down the park, or we can watch a film together. We can have some time playing together. Isn't that a better use of the time? That's what I believe is the number one reason why James and I do what we want to do. The number one reason why we have this business is to enable everybody to have that moment when they can say, I didn't waste time at work, and now I can spend more time with the people that I love doing whatever it is that I love to do. And it doesn't have to be children or anything like that. Not everyone's got kids. I understand that. Not everyone can have children. I give that as an example because it was one of the most important things that I did in my life. But there are lots of other important things. I like to go and have a run. So, if I can save half an hour in a day so I can go and have a run, that's better for me. I enjoy that. I get better health out of it. Or if you're James loves to do his go-karting. I know he doesn't do it on a weekly day, but if he hasn't got the time, he hasn't got the time. And when you're using tools like CloudWork, it enables you to balance that time. You can offset time to do something you love and then do the work later in the evening. It's all about that kind of work-life integration. And that's what we're all about at Kimberly IT. Before I sign off, thanks for listening. I hope this has been helpful. If it has been helpful, I would welcome any comments that you can leave in the comments on this on YouTube. You can visit us at kimberly.com. That's where you'll find our website that talks all about what our business does. And you can follow James and I on Instagram. James is at james.kimberly and I'm at thattechnologyguy. And you can find me on Twitter as well at Kyle S. Heath. I hope this has been a valuable podcast for you. I've certainly enjoyed doing this. It's a brief podcast. It's a summary of a blog post that I did on LinkedIn that got interest, and I thought I'd turn it into a podcast post. And in turning it into a podcast, it's been quite quick. We're coming at 19 minutes, so it's nicely get in there, get out again. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm going to be back with another episode later on. of our podcast, and I'll be back with James later on today, actually doing the Kimberley IT podcast. So I'm going to sign out of here. Thanks very much for listening. Bye.